Welcome to Math Made Easy. So, let me ask you a question. What do you think a 17th century Irish bishop, a tragic 19th century German geometer, and a powerhouse 20th century Soviet topologist could possibly have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup for a very strange joke, but the answer is actually incredibly simple. It all comes down to one single day on the calendar, March 12th. It's a day that probably just flies by for most of us, but if you look closer, in the history of mathematics, it's this amazing intersection of brilliant minds, incredible personal victories, and, well, some pretty profound tragedies. So let's take a look at how this one ordinary day actually weaves together whole centuries of mathematical history. So check this out. Our three main people are separated by huge stretches of time. You've got George Berkeley, born way back on March 12, 1685, right in the middle of the scientific revolution. Then there's Karl Feuerbach, who died on March 12, 1834, leaving this beautiful geometric legacy behind. And finally, Lyudmila Keldysh was born on March 12, 1904, and she was destined to live through some of the biggest upheavals of the 20th century. I mean, we're talking three completely different lives, spanning more than 200 years, all connected by this one day. Let's start with our philosopher, George Berkeley. Now, he was an Irish bishop, and he was not at all afraid to go toe-to-toe with the biggest scientific mind of his time, Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, so at the time, Newton's brand new invention, calculus, or as he called it, the method of fluxions, it was changing everything. It could predict the orbits of planets. But the logic behind it was, well, let's just say it was a little shaky. Newton was working with these things he called evanescent increments, which were basically quantities that were supposed to be disappearing, right on the edge of becoming zero, but not quite zero yet. It worked, for sure, but no one could really explain why it worked without a lot of hand-waving. And this is where Berkeley comes in. In his famous book, The Analyst, he just pounced on this weakness with one of the sharpest critiques in the history of science. He asked, "May we not call them ghosts of departed quantities?" His point was just devastatingly clever. He argued that mathematicians were basically accepting these fuzzy ideas on faith, the same way religious folks accept articles of faith. And that critique, it forced mathematicians to get really serious about building the solid logical foundations for calculus that we all rely on today. Okay, so let's jump forward about 100 years to a man whose life ended on March 12, 1834, Karl Feuerbach. His story, it's just this powerful reminder that genius and tragedy can be really, really closely connected. Just look at the contrast here. On one side, you have pure, unbelievable brilliance. Feuerbach discovered the 9-point circle theorem, this absolutely beautiful, totally unexpected property hidden in every single triangle. He got his doctorate when he was just 22. But on the other side, his life was just filled with suffering. He was thrown in prison for his political activities as a student. While he was there, he got so obsessed with the idea that his own death would somehow free his friends that he tried to commit suicide twice. He was eventually cleared of all charges, but the whole ordeal just broke him. He had a permanent mental breakdown, spent his last years hiding from the world, and died at only 33 years old. An absolutely beautiful mind, silenced by just immense hardship. Now, let's switch gears and move to our final main character, born on March 12, 1904. Lyudmila Keldysh's story isn't one of tragedy. It's a story of incredible, almost unbelievable survival. When the Nazis invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, Keldysh's entire world was just flipped upside down. She grabbed her 3 young sons and got out on the last train leaving Moscow. They ended up as refugees in the city of Kazan, living in a university gym with hundreds of other people, with no warm clothes for the winter that was coming. Then her husband, who was also a brilliant mathematician, showed up, but he was gravely ill. For 2 years, their main meal was just this gruel made from rye flour and water. It's hard to even imagine surviving that, let alone trying to do any kind of serious intellectual work. And yet, through all of that, she didn't just survive, she thrived. She nursed her husband back to health, she raised her children, and by the way, one of her sons, Sergei Novikov, would go on to win a Fields Medal, which is basically the Nobel Prize for math. And somehow, she kept her own research going. She produced absolutely foundational work in set theory and topology. Later, she established one of the most important seminars in her field at the Steklov Institute. It is just an astounding story of human resilience. So these 3 lives are incredible all by themselves, but the story of March 12th doesn't stop there. This one date opens up a much wider, more diverse picture of what a life in mathematics can look like. For example, also born on March 12th back in 1835 was a guy named Simon Newcomb. He was a mostly self-taught Canadian-American who became an absolute master of mathematical astronomy. His calculations of how planets move were so good, they became the international standard for navigation, used by sailors and astronomers all over the world. Then you have Lyudmila Tonelli, who died on March 12, 1946. He lived this fascinating double life. On one hand, he was a pioneer in a field called the calculus of variations. And on the other hand, he was a highly decorated Italian artillery officer and a war hero from World War I. And on March 12, 1945, Vijay Patodi was born in India. He was this brilliant geometer whose work connected really deeply with modern physics. And in a sad echo of Feuerbach's story, his incredible potential was lost when his life was also tragically cut short at just 31. And this just shows you the incredible range of people we're talking about. On March 12, 1905, Alan Whitworth passed away. He was an English mathematician and also a clergyman, and he used his understanding of probability to write about the real-world morality of things like gambling and risk. So what all this really shows us is that a single random day on the calendar can be a window into the soul of math history. It tells us that the story of math isn't just a dry list of theorems and formulas. It's a deeply human story. It's full of critics and heroes and survivors and tragic geniuses. It's a tapestry woven from countless lives, each with their own unique struggles and triumphs. And it really makes you wonder, what other stories are hidden in the calendar, just waiting for us to find them? Thank you for watching Math Made Easy.